Hey guys, this weekend is actually my last frost day and I was looking at the 10-day forecast and I am going to be throwing seeds in the ground. It's happening tomorrow after we come back from a little homestead rendezvous that they're having in the next town over. I'm really excited. They're supposed to have all kinds of things and we're hoping to find somebody to talk to about our bees and trying to get them get a set so we can start having our own bees. But I want to give you a little heads up to what we're doing. So this flower bed right here is, well, this is going to be a flower bed. I'm going to have all kinds of flowers, and my flowers are actually going to be planted now and then planted again in June so that I should have enough to do the farmer's market this year. So that's what this bed's going to be. Don't mind me pointing with my scissors. It's my pointing stick. Last year, this bed had a mix of things. All my front rows had zinnias, and then there was some tomatoes and peppers, cucumbers, different things. My son had 2 rows. And then we had a big patch of watermelon. And on the side we had some zucchini. And then along this back, where this cattle panel is where we had some cucumbers growing. And there was also okra and a few hot peppers back here. So this is going to be a flower one this year, along with that bed. This flower bed, no, I'm sorry, this garden bed, where this whole row of cattle panels is, I had tomatoes last year, and this year I'm gonna be putting my cucumbers there. And where this one was over here, that is gonna be where my tomatoes are for this year. And then the next row here, I had more tomatoes, I had some peppers, I had some cucumbers. Last year I had a really bad squash bug problem, and then I didn't get to really harvest any of my cucumbers and any of my zucchinis and squash because they were so bad, they just took over. So I'm hoping for 2 things. One, planting them in different spots. I'm hoping that I'll be able to actually harvest and get a good amount throughout the season for pickles and different things like that. And I'm going to actually do a succession planting. So I'm going to plant stuff now and plant stuff again in about 4 weeks or so, and see if that kind of keeps us in cucumbers a little bit longer. This year I got a mix of summer squash seeds and winter squash seeds that I'm going to be planting and trying out some different kinds of squashes. So it'll be interesting to see what our family likes and how well they grow, and if we can keep the squash bugs at bay this year. I'm not pregnant this summer, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to be a little more attentive to the garden and try to keep on top of those things. But that's just kind of what we're starting out to plan for planting this weekend. So it's been a few days since I showed you a tentative plan of what I want to do around the garden, and today is actually day 1 of planting the garden. We are planting this first bed, and I'm going to show you what we're doing and kind of just a layout so you have an idea of what we're doing. This bed is going to be all flowers for my cut flowers this summer, and I've been spacing them. My husband helped me get each of the rows ready, so I'm going to show you what the rows look like and how we did this process. So what we did is we made a piece of wood about the size that we wanted it to separate our rows. And this piece of wood is almost 3 feet wide. So our rows have about 3 feet between them, which is good because a lot of my flowers are going to grow up and get like a little bit bushy to them. And so by the time you plant them in this row, where the string is, and they bush out some, you're probably left with more like 18 or 20 inches, depending on what varieties, of space to walk down along the rows. So what we did is we just went through and we used this as our template and just kept moving it along the spots to where we wanted it. And then my husband came through with a string and these stakes, and we hammered the stakes in a little bit and then ran string up and down the rows. You'll see it goes all the way to the end and then cuts back across and comes back down here. So that's going to help me keep my rows where I'm planting my seeds pretty straight, hopefully. They'll stay pretty straight along this path. And then once we're done, we'll just take the strings off and we'll move on to the next bed. You can kind of tell where this ground has been worked up. We used garden weasel claw to work up the ground, and that just gives me enough of the ground getting broke up to put my seeds down and be able to just move on. So some of the flowers I will just kind of gently rake some dirt over it if they're more of a surface flower. Like I planted some amaranth, and it's going to be one of the ones that I had to use a rake because you don't really bury them very deep. You just want to rake them in a little bit. And then there's some other ones like nasturtiums that went like about ½ an inch to an inch deep, and so I was just able to poke a little hole and go to your first knuckle. Husband just told me my first knuckle, it's going to be about an inch, and that's about what I was doing, was poking that little bit of a hole and putting them seeds in and then covering them up and just gently pressing on the ground. I'm going to show you what kind of seeds I'm planting in this section. Alright, so let's see what we got over here. The chickens, we have the chickens out today. They're enjoying a nice day. Alright, so in my first bed, my first row, I am planting amaranth. And here's my amaranth. This is a new one for me. I'm really excited about it. It's supposed to be able to get up to 6 to 8 feet. So the reason I planted it, this row closest to me, is because the sun rises that way and then it sets this way behind me. So what I wanted to make sure is that my tall flowers were going to be able to be not blocking light from my other flowers. So in my second row, I planted, half of it is this tall mixed nasturtiums, and the other part of the row, I don't have the seeds handy. Nope, I do have the seeds handy. Are going to be these cosmos that are a different shade. I haven't had this. It says that they come in deep rose, shell pink, and snowy white. So I'm excited about this. They are a little bit frilly. My third row is going to have this orange cosmo. Look how pretty it is. I thought this would be a fun color. I've never grown this shade before. Let's see. And then I'm going to also be growing a straw flower. I've never grown straw flower. This is also a new one I'm excited about, and to have this mix of colors is exciting. This package says I got it for $3 from Baker Creek, and there's 250 seeds in here, so I probably won't be planting the whole amount of seeds because these say to plant 10 to 12 inches apart. I've been going on the smaller side, so I'll be around the 10 inch mark to try and get a decent amount, but make sure I have enough room that they're able to grow appropriately. One of the reasons I got this one is because it says it's good for drying, and I wanted to try to dry some flowers for bouquets that way also. So along the way, I'll also be throwing in, I have some wild flower blends. They're just stuff that I picked up at the dollar store just to see how they do. They cover a lot of ground, so I'll probably just put them at the end of any rows that I'm not getting a good feel from my other seeds. Alright, so I'm going to get at it. The baby's sleeping and I'm trying to use my time as wisely as I can. One thing with having 5 children and the youngest one is going to be 1 in July is you definitely need... You definitely need to use your time wisely, and if you don't get as much done in one day as you'd like to, it's okay. There's still plenty of time. I just am wanting to get these at least one bed a day done so that eventually my garden will be planted. And the nice thing is I have some things. Yes ma'am. The nice thing is I was going to be planting things in succession anyhow, so I have some time to plant things now and some time to plant things in about 3 or 4 weeks. Alright guys, I'm going to put you down and you can watch and see how I'm doing it. I have a yardstick and I'm putting it down to mark my spot where I'm planting my seeds and just moving along the line. So here we go. Okay, I forgot to tell you how I was keeping track of my flowers. So here I just planted a row of these orange cosmos, and on the back I wrote third. So what I'm doing is making sure I keep track of which row is which. So when I go in tonight, I'll draw out my 8 flower beds, and I'll draw 10 lines because I have 10 rows, and I'll put where each of the flowers are growing so I can keep track of which ones are where. And that helps me keep track not only for waiting on my seeds to come up, but for next year, so I know what I planted where and how good or how bad it did, so that I can keep a record. I like to keep a record of where my stuff is each year in the garden, and that also helps so I don't plant too much of the same similar things in the same spots. So I was reading the back of my straw flower, and it said to surface sow. So what I did is I went through and just lightly sowed them, about 10 inches apart. Some areas are a little bit thicker, but I went ahead and did that, and then I just come through and gently, very gently, I just tap down on the dirt just to make sure my seeds are going to kind of stay in the right spot in case we were to get a big rain. We're not supposed to, but you never know. That will kind of keep everything up from going too far down, because there is a little bit of a slope along here. We'll see how they do. Hopefully it's alright. That'll help them and they'll be okay. If not, I do have extra and we'll try it again. But just wanted to share that little bit of a tidbit of what I was doing. Alright guys, so I got 5 rows done. I got 5 more to do. Pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to be measuring out and placing them however deep it says, or surface sowing them and then gently coming back through like I had to pat the ground a little bit where the seeds are planted, and call it a day. Get these ones done. It's Sunday. Try to enjoy the rest of the day. Alright, well I hope this was helpful and we'll talk soon. Bye now.